probably the number one thing that people have come at me for advice on over the years is networking, because I truly just network different. Because I think networking is a sales call, right? It's a sales maneuver, right? Everybody else is like, go meet people and make introductions. Oh, fuck you. Let's go get business done. And I think that I for years have avoided being the networking guy, because I've always had the philosophy of, look, anybody who teaches networking is just a broke asshole that doesn't know how to sell, right? It's networking. It's not fucking rocket science. Go meet people, get in good conversations, open doors, tell them what you need, ask for what you need, and move forward. Hearing you say that, there's a part of me that wonders if I shouldn't try and finally plant my flag there. And I hate the word disrupt, but disrupt the industry from a sales guy's perspective on how to actually fucking network.
You take that notion that you've just put out there, which I completely agree with. I love the notion of it. And it's this, what Chris sort of overlays on that is like, it's almost a brand positioning thing. Like, you can give, but unless people see you selling something and see you being a business person, when you come to ask for it, they're probably not going to buy it from you, because they're like, well, I don't really know anyone that's bought from you. Or like, I've never seen you do this. I don't know this part of you.
And I can tell you, podcasting has been the coolest thing I've ever had in my business. I promise you there's no other greater networking freaking tool on the damn planet. You can just get into so many damn cool conversations with people that you otherwise would not be able to get into those conversations with. And this one's going to be no different. So I'm bringing in my buddy Mark. He's the CEO of Captivate, man. And we've known each other for a little over a year, maybe a little bit longer, and just been a really, really cool guy to do some things back and forth. So Mark, I changed up the format a little bit. I bring people in to coach me. So let's hit up freaking podcasting, man. If I'm running my show, I'm on my second podcast, 4th season in. I'm really doing this from a personal brand awareness, hoping that if I'm getting coached live, people are giving me advice, I'm putting out some solid content, that it will be valuable for other people. So what type of things do I need to be looking out for as I'm getting a little bit more long in the tooth with the show, and how long it's been running now?
Yeah, I think podcasting, it's in a fascinating place at the minute, because what's the best way to say it? It's a media now. It's a proper media. It's
for sure.
I was about to say it's an industry, but it's always been an industry. Like, when I got into podcasting 10 years ago, it was an industry then, but it was made up of people that service the industry. So hosting providers, like a little bit of consulting, maybe like a little bit. But now it's an industry that's made up of so many, not only service providers, but so many different strands of expertise, different strands of revenue, different strands of growth and attrition. And it's turned into a genuine media, which can really annoy a lot of people. Like, it pisses a lot of people off. I was on
especially the old school guys.
Go ahead, man.
No, especially the old school guys.
Well, the old school guys, yeah, but also like the old school guys, but actually as well, like just the independent creators. Like, there are so many people that get really frustrated that, this famous person's got a podcast and holy crap, why has it got more downloads than me? They don't deserve it. Well, of course they do. Like, they've become famous. Like,
right.
That payoff is not for the podcast. That's because of the other stuff. And I know it's frustrating, but that's just life. And the cool thing with that is that, say if I'm into golf, all right, which I am. I like playing golf. I'm a bit of a golf nerd, and I go ahead and I listen to Phil Mickelson or Tiger or Rory or Bryson or anyone on this podcast, all right? I could probably listen to other golf podcasts off the back of that, because recommendation engines are getting better, so the indie creators get surfaced, ideally, alongside those bigger podcasts. And that does happen. I do that. I've found shows like that. So it's sort of this weird thing where if they didn't exist, like the people that are pissing us off didn't exist, then we probably actually, our industry would go away now. It's not like it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago, even 4 years and 3 years ago. Like, it would go away because Spotify would pull out and
Yes.
Acast wouldn't bother, and we would just serve the indie creator as opposed to, the cool thing, which I know we'll get onto later. But the cool thing with building something like Captivate is that we serve tens of thousands of independent podcasters. But guess what? We also host the biggest shows in the UK and beyond. We've got the News Agents, the UK's biggest news show, tens of millions of downloads constantly. And guess what? Who works on it? It's the same guy and the same team that works on your show, mate. So do you know what I mean? All that would go away. So yeah, some of the old guard, some of the industry guys, but actually also a lot of it is creators not really understanding that. Like, do we stop making movies because I can't get my independent film shot on my iPhone screen at Cannes, and I'm not going to win an Oscar for it? Like, do we just stop making famous shit? Do you know what I mean? It's a weird thing, but I get it.
But I mean, they're not looking at the entire picture. Like you already said, these guys have already put in 15, to 20 years of busting their ass being actors, musicians, and, whatever else. Of course they're going to launch a show and the damn thing's going to go blow up. Now they still have to freaking deliver. They can't come in and just do a shit show and expect people to keep coming back. Their brand recognition is going to get them off the gate, but I think so many people look at it from such a short-sighted perspective of why isn't this happening for me now, when they forget, like, people, and I know everybody goes to Joe Rogan, but the dude's been in the game for 14, 16 freaking years, grinding, putting out content and the like. Of course he's got a big popular type show.
Yeah. It's the time that you put in to create quality content is not equal to the time that you put in just creating anything. It's like having meaningful practice in a sport. There's a difference between just use golf as the example. I could go to a driving range or go into a sim and I could bash 7 irons all day long. That'd be cool. I could do that. That'd be cool. I could smash wedges 120 yards and they would land within a pretty solid area, and that would feel great. The problem is, unless I go out and I practice off different lies and different thicknesses of rough, and I practice different spin types, and I practice different types of shot for the wind, for the rain, and ball above and ball below, and practice with focus, then I'm not going to get better. And it's the same with podcasting. If I want to succeed as a podcaster, then I have to take it as seriously as I would anything else that I want to succeed in. Like, if a lot of people come to me and say, "Oh, why is my podcast not making money?" And I say, "Well, think about it. If you came to me and said, 'Mark, why is my business not making money?'" So I do a lot of startup mentoring as well. And if someone says, "Why is my startup not making money?" I say, "Well, what are you doing then?" And well, I work, I'm pretty busy with other stuff. I put like 2 hours a week into it, and just all I want to do is make sure I get something out every week for my startup. I'm like, well, that's not
such a great analogy.
How are you going to make money? And I think also the other thing, is that a lot of the entrepreneur bullshit out there has sold podcasting as a way to make money, and it is, but so's golf. But guess what? I'm fucking not good enough. Do you know what I mean? So that's cool. I just play it because I like it. And in fact, I was with, and so this will come back to sort of, the coaching aspect and sort of the podcasting industry as it is. I was with someone from a really big company last week, and they got pitched. What was it? They got pitched, I think, to sponsor an awards ceremony within podcasting, like an Indie Awards, whatever. I can't remember what it was. And they said to me, "Why the hell would we sponsor this? Because they're not making any money. Why the hell do they even bother podcasting?" And I was like, well, this is the mistake that you guys in the big media are making, is that actually, like, I've got a guitar in the background. That's a Geddy Lee jazz bass, right? I've sometimes play it on stage, but I sure as shit ain't getting signed. I just do it because I love it. And it's the same. It's the same with podcasting. And this is what I think is the problem, right? If I said to you, "Donnie, you love music," you say, "Yeah." And I say, "Right, okay, that's cool. What kind of music?" And you break it down. And then you say, "Right, okay, do I like stadium rock? Do I like country? Do I like R&B, hip, or whatever?" But with podcasting, it's not like that. It's not like video, all right? So again, if we use video, are you into video? Yeah. Well, what video? Do you make movies? Do you make TikToks? Do you make YouTube? A bit in between? Do you work for Netflix? What do you do in video? So, but the problem is, what do you do? I'm in podcasting, right? And what do you do in podcasting? Well, I'm in podcasting. That's it. I'm just podcasting's podcasting. So the minute, because it's become a media, but it's not become big media, big media. It's everything's lumped together. So the indies are very much like, these celebrities coming in and doing this, and this. Why are they at our show? And it's all for the big boys. It's all for the big brands and stuff. And it's just because we've not yet figured out that actually podcasting's become so much bigger than what it was, but it's not yet found the ability to segment itself out. We're all still thinking podcasting is just one big thing, and it's not anymore. It can't be, because the money running through from the brands, and even things like the money running through from the brands who previously were worried about direct response campaigns and now more worried about brand positioning campaigns. So even that's subtly shifted. So when you map that to like an independent podcaster, why would a brand want brand positioning on your podcast that gets 100 downloads? It just doesn't match. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's cool. Your podcast's brilliant. But let's be realistic about what they want, so that at least we can find our own types of monetization strategy. So yeah, it's a big topic, man. I could talk about it for a long time, but it's fascinating, really.
Well, it brings up an interesting point. It's like when we started to shift the show, and I think I have a kind of a company history of doing this, is I think we need to go in one direction, right? So I move everything into that direction. And then you learn things along the way. And, like my initial podcast I did is what a lot of entrepreneur podcasts do, is you get somebody on and you're just like, okay, let me hear your story. How'd you get here? What are the things you've been through? What have you done? All that crap, right? And I learned through that nobody wants to hear your fucking Zoom conversation, right? So it was like, okay, what's then the point? So when we launched Success Champions, it's all right, cool. We're going to focus on small service-based business growth. What are the things that they need to do to actually grow their business? And that started working, and we started seeing some growth from there, but it still wasn't pushing the envelope. And then I did an episode where the whole conversation, this guy was coaching me, and that episode popped, and I went, wait, holy shit, there might be something there. And that's for me, is part of tinkering and being interested, and to your point, enjoying the game of podcasting, to not do why I initially launched a show. When I initially launched a show, it was, oh, this is going to make me money, right? This is going to put my brand on the map. I'm going to be the next, Joe Rogan or whatever. And I think anybody who says otherwise is full of shit, right? I think we all got there somehow, and that was definitely me. And it took me going through these evolutions to realize, okay, dude, there's got to be something more than here than just sitting down having a mic. Do you think most people kind of go through this process? I mean, it was for me. It was an evolution. Is that typical?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm just going through it now with my show, which is, I'm just doing a bit of a listener survey. I've got some ideas on what I want to do. And I think, if you were to consider maybe 10 years ago, right, the entrepreneur business podcast space was just, everyone was just doing it. It was just, and it was all right, but it was the same old shit at the end of the day. JLD did his daily thing.
Yep.
And that was fine. That was good. He did fine with that, and he did well. And John's John. And he had a certain element to that. He's, the processes and the structure and the resources they had in place to be able to do that, no one else could do. But then that was sold as like this thing that you should do. So that became quite disheartening for a lot of people that simply couldn't keep it up. And then you had someone like Pat Flynn, great guy, a lot of respect for him, pivoted a lot more into like tech and product, which I hugely admire. I think that's a very smart move for a content creator. But he started and he was doing the interviews, and they're good at them. So what happens is everyone follows suit. And it's like it happened again in 2016 with Serial. Serial came along and suddenly everyone's true crime in it. And again, nothing wrong with that. But you can't expect to mirror the success of that, because there's always first mover advantage, and then obviously someone will come along and They might do something like Startup did, and they'll change the narrative format a little bit, and so it all evolves. Everything evolves. But then when it comes back to us, what we often do is we'll focus on just getting the thing out, and it's just got to get everything. Whatever it is, I've just got to get it out. It doesn't matter whether it's good, whether it's bad. I've just got to get it out. I've actually had, so I've been podcasting for 10 years. The two sort of businessy podcasts that I had, which are the one now, which is all about podcasting, called the Podcast Accelerator. I had a break from that for a year, starting last March until about this May. And then back in 2016, I had a business podcast, a startup podcast. And I took a break from that for, probably 18 months. And both hiatuses, both breaks from the business podcast, I carried on with my fun podcast, but the business ones, they both came because I realized I was just putting something out and it wasn't good enough. It was like, it was all right content. Most people would have been happy with it, but to put it into context, my previous podcast was called Excellence Expected, which is after the Steve Jobs quote. Not many people are used to working in an environment where excellence is expected. So I expect more from myself. And it wasn't good enough for me. So I stopped them both. And on the back of that, I was able to evolve. I was able to move ahead and do something like you've done with the coaching stuff, just find something that I enjoy that resonates with the listeners. And it's funny because it sounds like it takes a lot of balls to do that. Like, it sounds like it's, we're going to quit this podcast thing. And then people think, oh shit, my listeners are going to leave. But actually they don't. They stick around. So when I came back with the Accelerator show, the Podcast Accelerator, dude, the first 2 episodes that I did were the highest downloaded episodes outside of my trailer that I've ever had. And I didn't really do that much marketing on it. It was, people were just like, oh, it's back. This is great. I'm going to download it and I'm going to tell a friend or whatever. So I think there can be a lot that can be learned from almost getting off that cycle. The hamster wheel, that whole content hamster wheel of, right, I got to just put something out. And, you think about like a TV show, let's go Star Wars on it. In fact, The Mandalorian is a limited series. So is Obi-Wan and whatever else. They're not weeklies because the quality would not be able to be sustained. Like, sure, there are weekly shows out there, but are they like £6 million budget per episodes? And
Right.
that's the difference, is that you have to accept, like, where do you want to sit in this kind of, if you run the whole gamut of podcasting, where are you? Are you a weekly show that puts interviews out? That's cool. But does that stand out as much as Business Wars from Wondery, which is really highly produced, really well thought out, really well researched, well acted? Where do you sit and what are the expectations associated with that? Because if you are doing Business Wars, as a team of people, you put 200 hours in per season, at least, I would have thought. You want pain for that. Whereas if you do an hour a week doing an interview, how much really should you get paid for that? So I think it's expectations, man. I think there's a lot of gaps in that.
Well, and that's an interesting play, right? Guy Raz came out with How I Built This. And of course, How I Built This blew up. And then the next thing you know, everybody's, following his format and now trying to do the Guy Raz freaking interview. Then you go Business Wars is another great example. Everybody's like, okay, we're going to try and do that. And I think there's a level of how much energy and effort people want to put into these things. And, like a lot of people, I'm running 3 companies. We have a huge summit fixing to come up. There's a lot of additional things. And I think we have 4 people on the podcast team that are doing nothing but the freaking podcast. And so you either going to have to throw a lot more money at it to put a production crew together, right? Or you're going to have to put, some more energy and effort at it. But I think where I struggle sometimes in particular is, what's that next level of uniqueness that that sets me apart. And I listen to guys like Shran Srivatsa, who's got business school. Then you got Alex Hormozy, who's doing his things. And those guys are 100% solo episodes. And right. And I could do solo episodes and I could probably come up with enough content, but I also enjoy the networking side of podcasting. So it's like, where is that tweak of getting into the cool conversations, let people coach me, let's get the networking happening, putting out original thoughts. So we're now testing me releasing solo episodes in between, the regular episodes and the like. And um, you said you're doing like listener surveys and the likes. One, I'm really curious how you pulled that off. And two, what was it you were actually surveying for?
Yeah, good question. So it's dead easy to pull off. It's just a Google form, and then I just promote it and stick it in the episode. I'll probably insert it. So with Captivate, you can, as you know, you can dynamically insert like a pre-roll across your back catalog, which is mint. So I'll probably do that as well, mate. I'll probably just stick a little promo and just saying, hey, if you listen, it's very, very handy. I'll just say something like, if you're listening to the back catalog, go and do this survey. But so it's dead easy to pull off. The thing that I'm asking, well, I've got some open-ended questions. That's the key thing, right? If you're doing a survey of any sort, a lot of people really screw this up because they want to reinforce their bias sometimes, which you can't do. It's easy to put a yes/no question and then like write a leading question to it, and that's shit because you think you're great and then you get it wrong. So for me, it's very much about like open-ended questions. I think I've got something like how would you rate your industry knowledge, and what I mean by that is not like you as a podcaster or your skills as a podcaster or as like an editor, like your technical skills or your skills as a creator, but like your knowledge of the podcasting industry. So it's a great example of that. I could go to Podfest and I could ask Deshaun. I could say, what do you think about the HSBC brand partnership with the news agents? And if he goes, yeah, this is cool, I've seen it, it sounds great, then I know he's got some industry knowledge, and that's great. If he says, what the hell are you talking about? I said, right, okay, there's a job there. I can help with that. You know what I mean? I can bridge the gap between this type of the media and this part of the media. So that's the key thing, an open-ended question. And one of them is, do you feel included in the industry? And it's funny, this one, because you get a lot of people like, oh, fucking hell, inclusion. Why do we have to beat on about inclusion? And it's not about, the question's not about inclusion. It's like, it's interesting because if that's the interpretation, that's cool, but like, don't have a whine about it. It's more, do you feel like there are different levels to podcasting? So as an example of this, my day tomorrow is, I've got, my first meeting is with the upper echelons at Global. So a huge media company. Tens and tens and tens and tens of millions of downloads per month that we run through Captivate, and that's I report to the board of Global. And then my next meeting is like with a podcaster that wants to start a podcast. Like that's right. The whole it's the gamut. So the reason for that question is like, should I be doing more to connect the dots for those people? If I interview James Cridland about if YouTube is good or bad for podcasting, who does that help? Is it the creator, or is it the big media, or is it everyone? And should I be helping like I said, to connect everyone together? So the survey is really to figure out, how do people really feel about the industry? And a lot of people do feel like they're not included. And what's interesting is a lot of people feel like they're included, but only in certain little communities. A great example of this again is my good friend Chris at Podfest. Chris Commitsos. He's got an amazing community, but does the general average person and podcaster within that community know what it means if I say we only sell spot? Probably not. Right. They probably just don't know what that terminology means. And that's cool. That's fine. They're not expected to know. But the point is, we're all in the industry together. So sort of back to your point, regarding that, how do you find that uniqueness? I think one of the big things for me, and I think one thing that you always do well anyway, is just like your angle on things. I had Dave Jackson on my show the other day. And like Dave's school of podcasting, like I've been doing this 10 years. He's 10 years to Dave's like he's forgot shit that I've yet to learn. You know what I mean? Because he's been doing it much, much longer. And he just said the reason I listen to your show, to my show, is you always have, like with the AI thing in podcasting, you always have like a different example. Everyone else is going, yeah, this is great. And then he goes, I listen to your show, and you're like, what the fuck, this is shit. And it's not to be contrarian, it's just different thinking. And so I think that's a huge thing that a lot of people don't do. Even like the so-called entrepreneurs online, you see them all the time. Like they're really just content creators. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But don't say you're an entrepreneur if you're a content creator. Like you're not an entrepreneur. You're that's cool. Like Richard Branson's a freaking entrepreneur, you know,
Right.
and Jeff Bezos is an entrepreneur. Like it's cool that I'm just a small business owner that runs a small business. Like I don't want to be an entrepreneur. All right. So
100%.
I think when you start to strip some of these layers away, but then own some sort of angle and perspective, that's one thing that a lot of podcasters are scared to do, is own a narrative, own a perspective, own an approach to something, because they're scared of annoying people and alienating them. And what they do is they try and wrap their arms around every piece of audience. But what they do is they acquire no audience because they're too general and they're a little bit too vanilla and they don't have anything that people can relate to. So I certainly think there's an opportunity for strongly voiced people to let more of that voice out, if that makes sense. I think there's a huge opportunity for that now, because no one wants to piss anyone off, right? And that's sort of silly. Like, what's the point in that? You're going to piss someone off anyway by just being too ambivalent. So you'd sort of may as well at least own something, you know, and have an opinion on something and stand by the way that you think and the way that you deliver your thoughts. Because I think it's that stands out. Like, don't just report the news. You know, report the news with your own context and your own background and your own thinking, you know, just as an example. So, yeah, I think that's the thing a lot of people don't do is they don't own the voice, if that makes any sense.
To your last point, the biggest thing that I think people don't have the ability to do, or they're not self-aware enough, is they don't actually think about what they think about, right? They don't actually stand for anything because, as you said, they've been so vanilla. And I got to be 100% honest. I struggle with this some point of trying to think about what is my soapbox, and not because I do know that controversy plays out, and I don't want to ever come from the perspective I'm doing it to pick a fight. I want to pick a belief, right? And go after that. And things like networking, a lot of times sales, I'm very opinionated about how things should be done. And I unintentionally do in those arenas pick a fight on those particular topics. So I go back and forth. Do I go more talk about sales and networking, or do I talk about business growth, you know, and the struggles I'm having there and the likes? It's like, where do you plant your flag and say, okay, this is where I'm going to go? Because there's, you know, a buddy of mine, Tony Watley, he does this so damn well about being able to articulate his position in the marketplace. And he's got, something 365 is the name of his podcast and show. Is really, really good. But he's really good at planting his feet and not being so over top as like an Andy Frisella, but being able to articulate a point that will make you rethink sometimes how you were thinking about something. Or sometimes I just look at Tony, I'm like, Tony, you're off the fucking rails today, you know? But finding that particular position and being able to articulate, it's not always the easiest thing to do.
No, it's not. And I think what's interesting as well about finding not necessarily the soapbox, but the thing to hone in on is that a lot of people look, it's the best way to articulate this. A lot of people look for the answer in the wrong order to that. So what I mean by that is, you know, you got marketing and sales, that's one thing I could focus on. And then you've got sort of business growth and business generally, you know, over here. What a lot of people do is that they look or they think to themselves, well, what have I already got traction in and what have I seen traction in? And they're perpetually confused and perpetually can't decide because actually they've not seen traction in either that stands out above the crowd. And the reason for that is because they haven't yet focused on the thing, because so that then they've not got the feedback from that thing. You know, it's like if I again, let's use the golf analogy, right? I'm shit with my driver, I'm shit with my 7-iron, I'm shit with my wedge. All right. What do? Well, if I just go right, I've got 100 balls, I'm going to go 35 driver, 35 wedge, 35 7-iron. Nothing's going to get better. So then I think, well, what should I focus on? Well, I'll just go and feel good about hitting the thing. So I've not got the feedback that something is getting better. Whereas if I go and say, right, I got 100 balls, I'm going to go 5 times a week. I'm just going to do 500 balls on a 7-iron. After 500 balls, the 7-iron is going to be a hell of a lot better. And so you get the feedback that that thing is working. And so you can, that then transplants through, and the changes that you've made will move through the bag then. So if we come back to the business thing, unless you've done a year, like with me, unless I did a year or 2 years of being the podcast guy, how do I know if I'm any good at it? I don't know. If I was like the startup guy and the podcast guy, and then I was the business guy and the tech guy, people wouldn't know what I did. But also, I don't have enough feedback to say, well, my voice, my personality, my style not only matches the topic, but also matches the opportunity within the industry. So again, to sort of take that a bit further, when I got into podcasting, I'm pretty outspoken. Like, I swear a lot. I have a laugh. I have banter. I will wind your ass up. If you're a grumpy old podcast guy from another hosting company and I just meet you, I'm going to pull your leg. That's it. That's a sign of respect from me.
Right.
I say it all the time. I will pull your leg if I respect you. If I don't, I just fucking ignore you. So that's
Right.
the thing. And it's so when I got into podcasting, everyone was like, okay, this host, I am great. The others are crap. And then the other hosts were doing the same thing. It was like, they're building all these different towers, and they can't possibly talk to each other or collaborate or even possibly be friends. And then I came in, I'm like, I'm not going to badmouth anyone because I think that's stupid. I don't think there's any reason to do that. I'm just going to be friends with you. I'm going to be friends with you, and you cannot fucking help it. I will be your friend. But at the same time, if you say something stupid, I'm going to tell you it's stupid. And then if we talk about it on a stage, I'm going to tell everyone listening on the stage that it's stupid as well. And here's why. And we can have differences of opinion, but that doesn't mean that I hate you. All right. And there was no one in podcasting either doing that or talking about the business elements of podcasting. So I came from like a startup agency, building digital tech background. And then I get into podcasting and people are like, why is my podcast not growing? I'm like, well, in same principles as if I was growing a startup or a tech company. These are the things you got to do. And no one was doing that. So these two things, I hadn't found my voice, but I'd found what I want to say back in the day. No one else was doing this. So I doubled down on it. And as the 10 years have progressed, like, I'm far more flippant now. I'm far more like, look at me, I'm an angry, I'm pissed off with the world because I'm like 42. Like, this is what we must do.
You become the old codger,
like,
that people are yelling at.
Yeah, you become the guy that I was deriding. And so the point is that, I matched topic with tone, but with opportunity. I could have done the exact same stuff in startup land, and I still got a little bit of a foot in like startup mentoring and accelerators and all that. Not by any stretch as much as I used to, because everyone was doing that. There was always some, fully tan, tattooed twat doing mentoring who was like, owner of a design agency, and there was like 50,000 of them queuing up to do it, and it was all the same. So I was like, how am I going to stand out in that crowd? I can't. How can I make a name for myself? I can't. It's going to be much, much harder. Wait a second. I love podcasting. I'll just take the same stuff and I'll apply it there. No one was doing it. So I think when you're thinking about what to double down on, you can't do it without the feedback. What I mean is, like I said, you can't, unless you do something for a year or 6 months or whatever is enough to give you data. You don't know. And then the second thing is like, where's the opportunity? Where's the gap? And it might be that there isn't one, and you got to create one.
Yeah, what's fascinating about that is probably the number one thing that people have come at me for advice on over the years is networking, because I truly just network different. Because I think networking is a sales call, right? It's a sales maneuver, right? Everybody else is like, go meet people and make introductions, open, fuck you, let's go get business done. And I think that I for years have avoided being the networking guy because I've always had the philosophy of, look, anybody who teaches networking is just a broke asshole that doesn't know how to sell, right? It's networking. It's not fucking rocket science. Go meet people, get in good conversations, open doors, tell them what you need, ask for what you need, and move forward. Hearing you say that, there's a part of me that wonders if I shouldn't try and finally plant my flag there. And I hate the word disrupt, but disrupt the industry from a sales guy's perspective on how to actually fucking network.
I think the interesting thing there is it's like, it's not how to network, it's how to profit from networking. That's the subtle shift.
Yeah, no, I like that.
And it's such a big thing that it's because it's like, I hate networking. I'm like ADHD brain. I've got like I don't even know. I'm still sat here talking to you, mate. I've got like I'm fiddling with stuff. This is what I do. I fiddle. I look all over because of my brain. That's how
I doodle.
Yeah, exactly. Anything like that. I used to get hammered at school for it. Teachers, you got to concentrate. I'm like, fuck you, I am. This is how I do it. Yes, like screw you, 80s. So it was. It was like a weird thing for me to do that. So when I got into networking and had to network, I sort of didn't realize that I had a technique for it. So I'm pretty introverted as well, which is stupid. Like, I'm in bands. I've been in bands. I will play on stage. I will sing on stage. I will speak on stage in front of thousands of people. I will podcast all day long. I'll go on video, but I am introverted, right? So what that means is that ADHD and introversion, what that means is that I go to an event and the last thing I want to do is network because it takes it out of me. It tires me out. And then I'm desperate to get back to my hotel, just chill out and recharge a little bit. So what this manifested itself like was someone told me this, my good friend Jonathan Oakes, one Podfest or podcast movement actually, he said, I've watched you, I've noticed what you're doing. I'd been doing it for years at this point, I just didn't know I was doing it. He said, what you do is you know everyone. And what you do is you'll say hello to everyone and you get chatting to them for a few minutes, but I can see that your willpower and your willingness and your ability to engage that conversation without your brain flying off is dwindling. So what you do is, because you know people, you'll say, oh, by the way, Donnie, have you met Kieran? And then I'll have a couple of minutes with you guys and I'll be like, right, I'm going to go do this thing. And I do the same 50 times. And so what then happens is that I end up with this group of people and then another group of people, and then I bring them together, and that's just how I know everyone. And it didn't, well, not necessarily came to a head, but it stood out to me a couple of years after he'd said that. I was like, yeah, maybe I do that. I don't know. And I went to Social Media Marketing World in San Diego, and I was like, maybe we should just go for dinner. Sam, my wife, was with me, and I was like, maybe we should just get like a few people for dinner and stuff. So I can text him around. And like 130 people turned up for dinner. It was a shit show getting in. We got into an Italian restaurant on 5th, which I'm grateful for, and they were like, we've got room, yes, come in. We were having a quiet Tuesday. And it was, that really kind of visualized it for me. But the thing I'm terrible at is like, have I profited from those relationships? Yes, but only because they're relationships. And it's been such a long tail thing. I've profited because when I launched Captivate, we were profitable from like minute one when we turned it on, because everyone was like, oh, that's Mark's thing. And because there were that many people saying that's Mark's thing, I just knew that many people, and that's so people used it. So I would have no idea how to genuinely nurture networking and connections to turn them into actual business. I would honestly not need or want to do that because my brain wouldn't do it. But there are people that don't have the network that I have that need that to get their business moving. Like, I was fortunate because I knew a lot of people.
God.
So yeah.
What puts me in a position to go, what if you could turn that network into revenue? Like right now. Right? I mean,
yeah. It's a funny one, isn't it? Because I think from just thinking that through, like, I think I did, but it took a long time. Like, we built Captivate, we sold Captivate. Like, that's the network being made into money. But it took, could I have done it quicker? Hell yeah, if I'd have known what to do. And I just don't, like, I was never really getting work from people. And I suppose a better version of this is like when I ran an agency. So software's software. You either want it or you don't. That's cool.
right.
But when I used to work in an agency and used to own a design and digital agency, we build software for other people. And, I'd have to meet these people, nurture the relationships, go out and pitch when they wanted a request for a quotation, whatever. I'd have to go and be the sales guy. I was terrible at it, mate. Because that's just not me. I'm like the chatter. Had I had that network and you'd have said, how do you turn that into money now? I'd be like, I have absolutely no idea. Like, just help me with that because I don't have a clue how to do that. So I think when it's like a service base where the lead gen takes such a long time, that's where I'd personally struggle.
Well, one philosophy I want you to just flip the script on, and because I can't help but tell you this, is there's this idea that I have to give, and just keep on fucking giving, right? When it comes to networking, it's fucking wrong. The whole idea of giver's gain is wrong. Let me explain. It's not give. It's give, take, and give again. What happens is people fucking forget the take. And if you don't take, you're going to be taken advantage of, right? Now, there is the long play. Like you saw the long play result of giving over time and bringing real value in those gives. But earlier on, if you would have made an ask, you would have profited a hell of a lot earlier. But people don't like the ask because that's the part that makes them feel like a salesperson. And what people don't understand is if you give, get something back, and then you turn around, you give again as kind of a thank you through that process, you're still doing the same philosophy without being taken advantage of. So,
yeah, I love that, man.
Interesting.
It that leads me to, sorry to interject there, mate. It leads me to something that I think, who was it now? It might have been Chris Ducker out at an event, again, like social media marketing or something, just over a beer. And he one of his philosophies, you've always got to be seen to be selling. So like, you take that notion that you've just put out there, which I completely agree with. I love the notion of it. And it's this, what Chris sort of overlays on that is like, it's almost a brand positioning thing. Like you can give, but unless people see you selling something and see you being a business person, when you come to ask for it, they're probably not going to buy from you because they're like, well, I don't really know anyone that's bought from you. Or like, I've never seen you do this. I don't know this part of you. So there's a lot to that. And I think it's sort of battered into us in business books, isn't it? Value. And I still get it to this day. You still see the same kind of vernacular. I get it all the time. Let me know I can help you. Let me know I can help you. And I'm like, that's beautiful. I love that. But I've seen it for 15 years now. I know exactly what's going on. Like, this is a tactic and it's cool, but let's just be people. Let's just go get a frigging beer, And I think that's actually...
I had
Go on, shoot, man.
No, I had a friend of mine who gave me just the coolest advice. He said, if you're ever around a billionaire, never talk business until they do.
Yeah, I get that.
Right?
Yeah, I get that. It's one of the biggest things that served me is that let's just go and have a beer. So that it's easy. What's the best way to say this? I know a couple of guys that are very, very, very rich. Very, very rich through work. And in my younger years, one of the things that I thought was a problem, but actually as I've got older, I think I really like it because I don't really give a shit who you are. Like I've always treated everyone the same. And it like,
right.
And people have called me out on it before. Like I say, the caretaker at the office gets the same attention as like the CEO and the owner. And I get that. I've always been very down to earth and very much like, let's just get a beer. Like, do you want to get a beer? Like, let's just blow this off and get a beer. And it doesn't matter who it is. And I think a lot of people get put on pedestals by people who want to feel like they've got like a halo effect. I see this in the entrepreneurial community, right? So here's a good example. There used to be a lot of people at places like Podcast Movement who were like entrepreneur podcasters, and they will, right, okay, there's a party happening. It's the big party. It's going to be a right laugh. Are you coming? Bear in mind, there's a lot of people here who buy your shit. Are you coming? No, I can't. I've got to go to an exclusive dinner with high net worth entrepreneurs. And you're like, what the fuck? You're not high net worth, mate. Are you joking me? You're an affiliate marketer, like get in the sea. But what they do is They ride the crest of that for a year or two, and then everyone gets wise to it. So then their brand changes, and they're just the person that sells stuff and doesn't really care about the people. It's just a turnover thing, and the brand gets damaged, and then suddenly, the decline that they never thought would happen starts to happen. And dude, I saw this so often, and I still do. It's really sad. And this is going to sound crass, and I don't mean it to. Like, I've sold a tech business. Like, I'm all right. I can buy a beer, but I never go to those events. I'm always like, I will be at the karaoke. I will be at the mini golf. I will be there doing that because like I said, it doesn't matter who you are. It's the character that will strengthen the relationship. You and I will get a beer. We'll see each other. We'll get a beer, and we'll talk about all sorts of shit. You'll ride my ass for Star Wars, having a Star Wars show. I'll ride your ass about something else. It's the but look at this is what we do. We do work together. So it's long term. You've got to build the long term through that. And not enough people do that because they want instant results because that's what we're told in books.
Dude, I freaking learned that the hard way with my own clients. We were doing really, really, really well in this upward climb with all of our clientele, and I was finding myself in some cooler rooms, some cooler conversations, and the like. And all of a sudden, I turn around, and my client base started doing the exact story, and I went, "Fuck, what the hell happened?" And so I put out a like an anonymous form that said, "Hey, we want some feedback to know what's going on." And they came with some real feedback, and I went, shit. So I had to totally revamp and go back and get back amongst my people. I know that sounds fucking hoity-toity or whatever, but I had to go get back against my people and re-engage. And it was a humbling moment because there was a part of me who's like, ooh, I'm actually starting to become somebody. And then you get freaking smacked really hard. You're like, oh shit. A new friend of mine, Chris Dadian, said it this way. He goes, you got to be the guy that's willing to just shut up and learn no matter what fucking room you're in. And for me, I'm always the guy that wants to teach. So to try and turn off that teach is a real bitch. But it's sage damn advice.
It is, man. And there's certainly something in that. And having the ability to not, I think the ability to not put people on pedestals is really important. I think we do that very often. I see a lot of celebrities. I'll go to work, and I work for a huge media company that runs pretty much all of the radio stations and outdoor events that in the UK. The office is Leicester Square. It's on Leicester freaking Square. There is no more touristy celebrity spot than Leicester Square in London. The office is there. All the radio stations are. I see a lot of celebrities, and if I'm just like, all right, how's your day? And because it makes no difference. Like they're still probably hungover, or they're still pissed off about something, or they've stubbed their toe, or the kid's being a dick, or whatever. There's something that's happened,
right?
And they're all normal people, and I think a lot of people just don't get that, especially in business, because we see people online, we see these celebrity entrepreneur podcasters, and let me tell you, man, I've been around a lot of them, and most of it's bollocks. I know a lot of people that were like selling meditation devices and selling vitamins and, selling these 7-minute workouts on a morning. And let me tell you, I've been with them for extended periods of time, and they ain't doing any of that shit. They're just saying they do.
Right.
And so, like, how does that translate to the rest of what they do? So, get rid of the pedestals and life changes, man.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I mean, at my last summit, I talk all the time that I get up and I walk my farm at 4:00 in the morning, every morning. And one of my speakers thought I was full of shit. So at the summit, 4:00 in the morning, I'd actually forgot my workout shoes. And so I'm in pajama bottoms, a t-shirt and the socks walking a treadmill. And he walked by and came in the gym and goes, no fucking way. Because I really did not think you would be here. I goes, I thought you were full of shit. And I said, don't get me wrong. I drank too much last night, but I'm still fucking here.
Man.
It's huge because that's what I think people don't understand is if you say something out there out loud to people can see, they're watching, to see if you're full of shit or not.
Oh, they are. And I think it's also like not buying. Actually, I'll flip that around. I think it's understanding it's all right to be normal, right? My morning routine,
Yes.
and this has been this way forever, right? Again, I don't want to sound crass, but I've done all right. You know, built a tech business, sold a tech business, got other businesses that do well. Like I'm 41, 42. I'm doing okay in business. And my morning routine is like get up, think, Jesus Christ, why the fuck have I got up? Get a cup of tea, sit down like a zombie for like an hour, and then just think to myself, right, better get a shower, get some work done. Like that was my morning routine. Now it's get dragged out of bed by the kiddo who's 18 months old, play with her for a little bit, make her a breakfast, have a cup of tea, chill out, get showered, think, right, it's time to do some work at like 8 a.m. Like, there's no journaling, there's no meditating, there's,
Right.
do I do exercise in the morning? Yeah, I have 3 PT sessions a week at 8:15. But you better believe that the only reason that I do those is because it's next to where my kid goes to daycare. Like, and I drop her off at 8:00. Like, it's the only reason. And
That's why I think Smartless is one of the best podcasts in the marketplace right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because it's the first time we can see the celebrities as fucking human beings, and you get to hear their fucked up stories. Like I heard and I forget the name of the guy they freaking interviewed. He was the right hand of Conan O'Brien. But freaking, they started the episode off. Sean brings out his mom's real glass eye. Like she had passed away, and he brings a fucking glass eye on stage.
Love it.
So, well, brother, we could freaking do this all day long and keep going back and forth. We're gonna have to do this again. This is fun. So, guys, this is unpaid for, unsolicited whatsoever. But Captivate is my host. I fucking love these guys. They are constantly innovating. They're almost innovating faster than I can keep up, but they are throwing a lot of shit at us. But it's always cool to hang out with you, dude. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you, reach out to you, find you? What's the latest coming up for you?
Yeah, thank you, man. Always a pleasure. We'll definitely do this again. It's like a regular thing. I'm in. Count me in. Easiest way, probably 2 things actually. On Twitter at Mr. Asquith over on Twitter, or X, whatever we're calling it these days.
And you fucking reply too, because that's how you and I originally hooked up, man. I mean, you're actually active on Twitter. That's how we got engaged.
It's literally the only thing that I'm on like actively. Like LinkedIn, that. What a nightmare that place is. So I just on Twitter, at Mr. Asquith. And then the other one is if you are into the industry of podcasting and sort of that side of things, just the podcast accelerator, which is at mark.live. So that's mark.live, the domain name. And yeah, let's do it again, man. Always a pleasure.